Welcome to Secrets of an Everyday Mystic. I'm your host, author Becky Magnolia. Secrets of an Everyday Mystic is a research project that explores the magical ways that everyday people tap into the human experience, turning strife and struggle into something of beauty, strength, and healing. You can learn more about me and my projects at magnoliamystic.com. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy today's interview. So tell me about you.
What do you like to know?
Start from the beginning.
Well, I think the beginning, one of the beginnings, would be getting sober in '86.
Okay.
Because, with that, leaving all of the substances behind, for me, I started discovering my truer self.
Yeah.
Without all of that.
Yeah.
And it was hard. I think it was hard for me to be my truer self without the substances.
Right.
Because it just made me feel initially more comfortable.
Right.
And then it kind of got out of control and got away from myself and everything else except that.
Yeah.
So that was a major step. And then 5 years after that is when, I'm into recovery big time, working out, and I was co-manager at a Honda dealership in DC, the DC area, and that work was really intense.
Yeah. How old were you during this time?
I was 29 when I got sober,
okay,
and 34, I think, when I picked up the camera, and it was a result of looking for something to kind of fill that void. And the more awake, more conscious I became of me being sober and trying to be more on a spiritual path, and that I was, the harder being in that business became.
Right.
Because you're required to or pushed to do things that were kind of against my moral standards. You get that money and at whatever cost. And
right.
the people that needed the help the most got abused the most, financially, in that biz. Anyway, in a crazy 50, 60 hours a week. So I bought a camera in a pawn shop. I remember saying, God, please send me something. Because, the 12 steps and we went to as many meetings as we could, and it was a great way to get sober, stay sober, and develop a new network of friends and family. And but there was something else that I felt that I needed beyond that. So I bought this used camera in a pawn shop, and I started hiking. Back then, I think we called it walking. Right.
So you're still in DC at this time?
It wasn't a thing. It was in the DC area, Northern Virginia. So I found myself going to Great Falls, Virginia, and Maryland, the upper part of the Potomac, and driving up to the Shenandoah, Skyline Drive.
Oh, yeah.
I'd go to the National Arboretum and hang out and shoot the Kenilworth Aquatic Gardens, where the water lilies some would open up in the morning, some would close in the morning. So getting there early morning was like magical. I go to the Eastern Shore, St. Michael's, Maryland, Rehoboth, Dewey, Bethany, Ocean City, and walk and shoot. And it was my solace, because there, you're kind of in the moment. Nothing else. It's like when you walk into those places in nature, maybe you experience it like getting in your kayak and going to the shore. You enter this portal, and like nothing else. Everything else is gone. It's like you in that moment, and the creatures that you encounter, the ripples of water coming onto the shore, trees. Yes.
You become it. Or your sense of self just kind of just dissolves. I mean, you're still like, I notice like you're using that example. It's like you're going out there, you're still there. You're still, I can still hear my little voice, but she gets quieter and quieter. And the more you just immerse in it. And it's interesting. So the camera part of it, how that, you know, I read a lot of like, oh, you can go on a spiritual by being in nature, meditating, but a camera, why is a camera, why does that work for you?
Well, then and now, I mean, you have to be in the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't be thinking about other shit if
Yeah.
you know, and you don't really want to. Like
Right.
then back then, you know, you look through the viewfinder,
Yeah.
and so everything else would dissolve.
Yeah.
And so it's just what's there.
Right.
And because of the nature of the business I was in and my mind,
Yeah.
busy,
Yeah.
that viewfinder, everything slowed down. Everything became softer, quieter, real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Truth, beauty, love, spirit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And because of the camera, I was kind of trained to just look for that,
Right.
and to be that, because that gives me peace.
Yeah.
So early on, I was like hooked with that feeling. I mean, give an
Yeah.
addict a good feeling, and more.
Exactly.
Right? Give me all I can get. So I was hooked
Right.
from early on.
Yeah.
And from the first roll or two
Yeah.
that I got. And so my few days that I had off were kind of dedicated to that.
Yeah.
Going to these places. And of course, being in nature always heals,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Being in the trees, or being by
Yeah.
the water, or on the rocks, or
Yeah.
you know, whatever it is. After a couple years of that, a good friend wanted to go out to Taos to look for land. And she had her frequent flyer ticket back then, right? So we went to Sedona, flew into Albuquerque, drove to Sedona. First time I'd been out west, and
Right.
those red rocks. Wow.
Yeah.
And went to Sedona, Grand Canyon, Monument Valley, and then to Taos, so she could look for land. And that trip was amazing. You know, I don't know if you've had that experience, but being out in those wide open spaces, that wide expanse of sky, and you know, the land and the sky, the clouds, the light, it was magical. And ended up in Taos for a few days, and which I didn't think much of, but it was the feeling of the place, the mountains, being able to see 80 miles into the distance, watch the sunrise and the sunset. And I made some good images and went back to DC, and once I got them developed, people liked them, and a couple people wanted to buy them. I said, wow, this is cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
But a month after the trip, my life has always been filled with grace, even when I was a knucklehead, you know. I've been saved, right? But a month after the trip, I'm sitting in my office, and I'm flipping through an Arizona Highways magazine that I purchased out west.
Yeah.
And I get this memory as a child, I don't know how old I was, 10 or something like that. My mother would come home with stacks of Arizona Highways magazines. Her boss, Jack Seed, I'll never forget his name. He used to send stacks of these magazines home. And I had my entire bedroom covered in pictures of the Southwest. So I forget this until that moment at the sales counter, the manager's desk. I'm flipping through the magazine, and I start tearing up. I said, "You can't fucking cry in a dealership. Come on, man. Right? There's no crying in the car business." But anyway, it's like that moment, and it was like, "Oh shit, I've got to go."
Yeah.
And a month later, I traded my new car for a truck. 4 months after that, thereabouts, I'm driving across country with all of my stuff.
Wow.
And my friend had, you know, she had, in a subsequent trip, found a piece of property, found a contractor / boyfriend, and started on a house, a remodel, which ended up having to tear it down, start over. And so I moved out there, and just trying to look for a new way of life and to see what would happen with the photography.
Did you have a job plan? Did you have
No,
anything?
people going, you going where to do what?
Yeah.
And my mother was like, you have a place to live? Do you have a job? You're leaving a good job and,
Yeah, exactly.
the white picket fence dream, which never seemed like it was for me anyway. And it was just it was just an inkling, intuition.
Yeah. Did you prior to that, did you go on intuition? Were you one of those kind of, I know going through like recovery and stuff like that can really crack you open. It sounds like you always had that spiritual part of you, but was that intuition thing a weird thing for you? Was it a new thing?
No, I don't know that it was new, but but the intuition too, when that comes, is a matter of choice.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
Early on, okay, this is fucked up, but I'm doing it anyway. Right?
Well, and I'm never that clear. It usually takes me a long time. I will sit there for days. I'll call people. I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I know exactly what I'm supposed to do, and I'll fight it.
Yeah. That battle between the heart and mind,
exactly.
gut and mind, whatever.
Yeah.
But something, I knew what I didn't want.
Yeah.
And that was that kind of the path I was on, because that business and the stress and the hours, which is eating me up.
Yeah.
And the money, I liked the checks. It was hard to divorce the checks. But I knew how creating with my camera and being how that made me feel.
Right.
And so I just wanted to pursue that. I didn't know how. And so I ended up in Taos, and I did various jobs. In Taos, you have to do that.
Yeah.
Because the rate of pay, the first year or two, I was paying more in taxes in DC than I was making in Taos. And it's like, oh my God, what have I done? But I kept up.
Yeah.
And then as I've learned, like doing what you love, it kind of leads you to where you need to be and what you need to be doing and who you need to meet.
And it holds you.
It holds you, yeah. In between fits of hysteria, it's like, what have I done to my life?
Exactly.
Right? Man, those breakthroughs, gosh. Breakdowns become the breakthroughs, I don't know. But anyway, it led me to a place where I could learn my craft and still working various jobs. And at one point, I had the one job I had at the natural grocer. They said, "Man, we love you, but you got to go. This isn't for you." It's the best thing that could have happened to me, because I was working my little photo business, doing cards. Yeah. And I had a lot of these outlets and doing simple shoots for B&Bs and family stuff. And I was making equal to what I was making 30 hours plus at the working in the produce department at Sid's, which was a wonderful place to connect with the right people in town. Anyway.
Sure.
But anyway, people would come up and chat me up, and Sid and Betty, the owners, just like, they're good, such good people. So we love you, man, but you got to go. So they gave me a severance check, and Betty gave me a hug and a kiss, and I freaked out for about a week or two.
Right.
And I figured, wow, just do what you've been doing, but more of it.
Yeah.
And then that switch in belief and commitment, the phone started ringing, people asking me to do this or that. And, after a couple years, it became apparent. I was doing a lot of family stuff, weddings and bar mitzvahs and first Holy Communions, a lot of sweet moments. So,
I bet.
But it led to me having to have a little space.
Yeah.
A little office instead of the coffee house.
Right.
That's where I was meeting people. And then that space, 3 years, I needed a bigger space. So I tripled my space, scared shitless, but tripled my space, a prominent space, and then there for 8 years. And then I tripled my space and got another location right and right in the heart of town, right next to the plaza, and did that for 6 years. And throughout this time, I'm meeting incredible people. A lot of the people from the Healing Hands book were coming through Taos.
Yeah.
Monks and lamas and holy men and
and you're just there.
Healers,
Yeah,
right? People
yeah.
and people knew what I was starting to do. I said, "Hey, there's healers in town. You want to come over and meet them at this event, or you want me to bring them by?" I remember I was told this story not long ago to a priest I was photographing here. I said, this one point I was all frantic. I'm driving down the road in Taos because this Tibetan Lama was over here, and around the same time, this Buddhist monk, he wasn't Tibetan, but this Buddhist monk was also in town. And I was like trying to get to them both, and I was getting all worked up and crazy. I said, dude, you're chasing llamas,
That sounds like a title of a book.
Right.
Chasing llamas.
I used to chase the Coke man,
Yeah, right, exactly.
And so, and my life had become that. Going from one moment like that to the next,
Yeah.
And Taos is kind of a vortex for that. Various ceremonies, be it Buddhist or Native or Hindi.
Yeah.
And so I just bounced from, and the photography has been a vehicle for entree into some sacred moments. And I couldn't have designed that.
Yeah. So tell me about, you kind of touched on this, and I'm curious about it because I've never actually thought about it before, but that the addictive personality, like you were saying, like all of a sudden you're with your camera, you're like, I want another hit of that. And then all of a sudden, instead of it being this kind of earthly, self-destructive thing, it becomes this almost divine kind of thing. Do you think that, because I'm seeing that in myself, when you said that, it clicked in me. I'm like, oh, that's me, because I'm not like a traditional addict, but I definitely have that kind of more.
If it's good, whatever it is, you want more of it.
Yeah. Do you think that's a personality thing, or do you think it's a temperament thing, or do you think that's everybody?
It may be everybody to a certain degree. Some people have more control. I mean, it may be more dominant in some. I don't know if I was predisposed to addiction or that type of personality, but we are who we are. Our chemical makeup is what it is, and
right.
I just know that it worked to my advantage.
Right.
Just like that. Whatever it was, 16 years in the car business, because I was shy. I was so shy, and I was starving when I first started because I wouldn't talk to people. Yeah. Hey, a salesman that won't talk, okay.
Yeah.
See how far that gets you.
Right.
But and I believe everything leads to something else. Everything serves its purpose for the next thing. And that many years of being in sales made it possible for me to have my own gallery and to sell my work.
Right, right.
That training was just invaluable.
Right.
And with creating good works, you want to create more. And then being in business, like it might have been much different if I hadn't started having a gallery space, because at that point I couldn't be like the casual artist.
Right.
Or part-time artist, or the passive artist, or the shy, or any of that.
Yeah.
Because I needed to get stuff to get on the walls, especially when the spaces got bigger, and to sell. So it started, this creative machine started going, and I guess I'm a driven guy anyway, and so I wanted to do well and succeed and be known and support myself.
Right, right.
So it all fit into that. And I think for me it was the best thing, to have, besides a inner desire and purpose and drive to, the gallery is a vehicle for getting me, keeping me motivated.
Yeah. So I'll go to a big question. So why are you here? What's your purpose?
Here?
On planet Earth.
Well, I'm learning what I think is I'm learning that I've been given a gift of seeing, and with that gift, I mean, I've developed it over the last close to 30 years of shooting, and I just want to share. I mean, I've had magnificent moments, and even in the what seemed to be the ordinary or mundane, I try to recognize beauty, love, and spirit in everything. Like you say, everywhere you go, and every thing, place, object, person. Sometimes that's challenging, but and I get to share that. And I've learned over the years, like my galleries have been like a laboratory.
Okay.
Because for people from all over the world, I've interacted with, and I get to watch them in my laboratory.
Interesting.
And watch what they connect to and why. And I prejudge people. They wouldn't like that. Like this college kid with a tattered college baseball cap and ripped jeans and t-shirt comes in, and he gets into the Healing Hands room. I said, he doesn't know what he's looking at. And he gets in front of this image called Praying Hands of a Senegalese healer in a blue robe, tunic, and prayer beads. And he starts crying.
Wow.
And I was, of course, I'm an emotional guy, so I get a little teary, and one, because of that effect, and two, because my judgment of him.
Right.
And so I try not to go there with people so much. I just try to observe, and I'm not perfect, and sometimes I still do, but I watch like what people, or how people are moved, or what are they drawn to. And so I hadn't had many bodies of work, so it's always interesting what people, and so I'm inspired to show people things that they may pass up in our busyness, being human doings. Right. And I can slow down long enough to see something and capture it and share it, and there's messages everywhere, and something I'm drawn to might be a message to me or for me. It may be different for someone else, but that's just great. I mean, that's what art does.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so it's quite a blessing to get to a point where there's like no doubt about your purpose or reason for doing and being.
Right.
It's multi-layered, being in a certain place.
So do you think when you go, like when people enter your space, what happens? So it's a laboratory. It's like, I used to be a Montessori teacher. So you create this environment where the kids come in and it's the same thing.
Absolutely.
You have all of your materials and you're like, welcome.
Absolutely.
And you just, and it is, actually, people have called it a laboratory, and the kids just go in and they just touch things, and you learn about them through it. So tell me, what do you learn? I mean, you said this one kid came and he started crying. I mean, what do you learn when people come into your space?
Well, one, I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And two, we're, people buy things and they're moved to tears. And I love the sex. They say, I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why it affects me that way.
Yeah.
And with that, often will come a sale. I got to have it.
Yeah.
Or I want to buy it.
Yeah.
I want to look at it every day. And sometimes it's just that moment where they're so moved and something opens up in them. And that's grace. That's not so much my doing. It's just me making it available.
Yeah. You being in your grace, taking those photos, you working with just the divine, and then bringing it to them. Yeah.
Right. And and you're right. I love that analogy of like the Montessori, and you create this environment. And I've always tried to make the space comfortable.
Yeah.
You see, I have a lot of chairs and couches, and when I had 6 rooms, they were just full of different places where people could sit and just be. Yeah. Whether they were buying artwork or not, they could just. There was always sacred music going, or jazz or something, or and always incense and a welcoming vibe. Yeah. And as I started to say, like people see stuff and get moved and don't know why and have to purchase it. Yeah. That we're all kind of looking for something. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. And maybe in our busyness, it's we're too busy to see and feel and breathe and just kind of be in the moment. And I think the work and the environment helps people to do that. And I love it when people come in and go, "Oh God, I don't want to leave." Yeah. Well, I said, "Well, okay." Yeah. You can hang out, if I'm busy, you just do your thing. There's books to read, there's a lot of art to see, and you can be. You want to sit down and have your lunch, you can do that. So I don't know where else I could do that. Certainly not working for someone.
And did you have was there some, it doesn't sound like you had some kind of grand plan, like you had some vision. I want to create this space where people can come and be.
It came out of necessity. Just people asking where, before the space is developed, where can I see your work? When I was doing events. And I said, well, I've got work in the back of my truck. Right. I just took a show down. And in fact, this happened like 2 or 3 times during a weekend I had 2 weddings, and I didn't have a space. And then I said, God, what I need is a space. A couple of days later, I drive by, and there's this my wife at the time said, you needed like a little 2 rooms. I drove past this space. There was a for rent sign in the window. I don't know what it was, 400 square feet between the 2 little rooms. And I got it, and it started the Living Light Gallery. And then I needed a bigger space to show more work, bigger work, and putting the work on the wall helped me get for hire work, and vice versa. Doing it for hire work, people were interested in what else I was doing, and then they'd come visit the gallery. And so it was a good marriage between those 2 worlds until I was busy enough I didn't do so much of the outside work. But it was pure grace, and I tell people who are interested in going into whatever, that the work will lead you to where you need to be. Trying to be true and honoring the work and yourself and enjoying yourself, loving what you do, that leads you to where you need to go next.
So there's a lot of artists out there who don't have your story, who maybe got called to something, try it, and then they give up. What's the difference? What is it? Because what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing is you sitting here is someone who is successful. You are successful, in all senses of the word. What allows for your success, and why do some people not succeed? Why are some people still kind of doing their jobs that they hate, and they're still back doing the car dealership?
Yeah, gosh, I don't know. I mean, I have. Well, this time last week I was going, woe is me. What am I going to do? Life of an artist, and the life of an artist, you have to learn how to be creative in that ebb and flow. And maybe I'm too stubborn and pig-headed in years past, so even now, to just give up. Yeah. I've had more money, sales thrown at me than I ever dreamed, and I've also, I've taken my bucket of coins to the grocery, to the coin machine. Yeah, yeah. I'm probably a better artist than businessman, but being an artist is kind of that way. Sales aren't always constant.
Yeah.
But two, I think what I've done to help me get through is to create no matter what.
Right.
You know, when I've had a couple of serious but not life-threatening health concerns, when I got through those, I said, shit, I'm doing more.
Yeah.
Because time is not promised, tomorrow is not promised to no one, right?
Right.
And this is what I came here to do, so I'm going to do it and do more of it. And create when she left and the other one left and I left the other one and you know, my mama dying and my son going away with his mom and the pandemic, whatever, my depressive states, to create no matter what's happening, and the work seems to get me through. Those moments lined up, you know. And sometimes I have to live, you know, the moment by moment, image by image, just a day at a time, sort of thing. And to get through, and like, what else would I do?
Right.
I was laughing with a young artist yesterday who's a very smart young woman, and we met for the first time yesterday, and someone suggested she come by and we hang out and talk, and she's been to school. I think she has a BA in some sort of art. And you know, we laugh about when people don't appreciate or understand or see the work, or it's not selling, and you go, damn, why am I doing this? And I laugh. I said, yeah, why didn't I finish that last 3.5 years of college? You know? Because that wasn't my path.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have your moments of doubts, but God, you have that if you work in a corporate job, right?
Yeah. So do you think those dark periods are they're just part of being, well, one, being human, but especially being, like, like you said, you started crying when you were at work, in the car dealership. It's like being a sensitive person, being an artist person. Do you think those dark periods are necessary?
I don't know if they're necessary, but they're going to happen, right? And see, I was laughing the other day too. Sometimes artists have to be a good chef, right? Okay, and I'm a great gumbo maker, okay. And so I take everything and I put in that gumbo. Right. You know, they don't love me. She doesn't love me.
I don't want to eat that gumbo.
That your work is not that good. You're not a real photographer if you don't shoot this kind of work. If you don't use this kind of equipment. If you don't do your own printing. You don't show at such and such a place. We love you. We want to buy 15 more pieces. I put all of that into my gumbo. Oh, my work is so great. Damn. Oh, my work sucks. It's not as good as so on. I put it all in the gumbo and I just eat it. Right.
So are you talking about literally or figuratively? Like, you actually make gumbo? No.
I take all of those ingredients, you put everything
I can see what you're saying.
into the gumbo, right? And so I put all of that into the gumbo and eat it and let it feed my work. Oh. Whether it's that depressive state, I want to jump off the bridge. Well, there aren't any really high bridges around here. The water would probably hurt. I don't know if it would kill me. I'd probably maim myself. Or the person that, comes in and wants to buy 3 big pieces and spends $5,000 or whatever, I have to take all of that. Because otherwise, the highs and lows, it's hard to live with those highs and lows. I try to, try to keep it the middle path, the middle road, and so I try to put all of that in a big pot, and just put it back into the work. Some of my, I think, most beautiful work is from just hard times, where emotionally to stay try to stay grounded and centered and on the planet, I've got to put it back into the work and create. And people they don't know those stories necessarily, but people can feel what's in the work. Yeah. Not just mine, but other great artists. It's not just technically sound and proficient. There's emotion and feeling, and I want people to experience that, whatever it is. But, emotion and feeling.
I'm curious whether somebody. So you've met some probably really amazing humans, and you think about the Buddhist philosophy, where it's really about recognizing suffering and kind of transcending it. I mean, I think maybe that's all religions. I'm not sure, but looking at suffering and transcending it. But sometimes I ask myself, and that's kind of actually the root of what the everyday mystic concept is about, is that maybe to me, the path, the freedom from suffering is exactly what you're saying, is going right into it. And you're talking about something, do you know what I'm saying? And I
Oh yes, okay. Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. It's like so what you're talking about is like, you're talking about throwing all that stuff into a pot and then eating it. Which is like, to some people, now that's very Buddhist in some respects. You're taking the poison. You're consuming it, and you're somehow using it to transform it. But to me, it's not about escaping this reality. It's not about jumping off the bridge. It's about looking not running from your shit, but going right into it.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's more of a habit now than it used to be.
Yeah.
I think that's the drugs and alcohol. I think that was a big part of that, escaping whatever feelings or thoughts or being a fraidy cat and just kind of numbing out or disappearing or abandoning self. All of that, but. Now I don't know if it's much of a choice. I'm not the bravest, but I often share that I think with people trying to do different things that if my knees are knocking, I think I'm on the right path. I'm on the right trail. I mean, you're complacent and comfortable, and what is that? But if you're, and no matter what someone is doing, if you're kind of moving forward, if you're pushing forward and going into those unknown, uncomfortable areas. I mean, that's where the growth comes. And going into that pain, I didn't want to feel pain. And again, I numb out to that. But now using that and sitting. Yeah. I had a great mentor years ago in the AA program. He used to tell me, just sit.
Interesting.
Just hurt.
Yep.
Mother MF, just hurt.
Oh.
I was like, what? Oh, dude, man, I thought you loved me, man. Why are you? Yeah. Just feel that, and as with artists, and feeling that, you take that whatever that is and put it into the work. Do your work. Both. Your spiritual work and your creative work, which to me is, there's a marriage there.
Huh. Yeah. Wow. All right.
Life.
I'm going to let me see how this is. It looks like everything's good. Okay, so let me pull up some questions. I haven't even had to pull up my questions yet. I know what I was going to ask you about. Actually, I'm going to do let's see here if I can do it from here. This house is like a smart house, and I think I can turn the AC down from here. So we'll see if I can, let me see if I can get it. Okay. All right. So tell me, this is a big question. So, part of this.
Do I need to lay down for this one?
No, not at all. No, I won't go to all the, no. Well, the thing is, Okay, for me, doing this is just basically an excuse to get to talk to cool people. It's probably it's the same for me. This is my photography.
Yes.
It's getting to listen because you say you see, I hear,
yes,
and I feel. So for me, basically what I said to myself, 4 months ago before I started this project is, okay, Becky, what would you want in your ideal scene? What do you want to do with the rest of your life? What would you do? And I said, I just want to sit with people and hear their stories. I want to be with people and I want to let people know that they are loved. It's what you're doing.
How beautiful.
Yeah, and that's it. And so I created this project. And, I still got to figure out how to make money and do all my stuff. The thing is what I'm seeing. I think I'm probably maybe like 10 years behind where you are. My life story is obviously very different, but it's like seeing all of it coming together. It's like, these different aspects, the Montessori stuff. I did that, years ago when my kids were little. But now I'm creating projects that are like, I'm like, oh no, I'm going to be a Montessori teacher for grown-ups. Like, how does that work? How does one do that? Am I going to, what does that mean? You know what I mean? But I don't even have to ask I don't have to work at it anymore. It's like I just ask, and you just, like the way you're sitting right now, relaxed, comfortable. It's like, okay, let's just see how it comes.
Yes.
And so, yeah, that's where I'm at. Okay, so, but my question is, I always struggled. So I'll tell you just a little bit about my background is that, so I was married for 22 years, got a divorce 4 years ago. I'm Jewish, raised, my dad's a doctor, psychiatrist. I was raised as a princess, the Jewish princess stereotype. Even though they said that they were cool hippies, it still was there underneath. So I was preserved as this beautiful intellectual person who just, a woman. So I got to just think and be, nice and happy and congenial and I was good. But as I started kind of cracking open my spirituality, I realized I'm like, oh, I'm not here just to be pleasant. I'm here because I want to make change, and not just change in myself, but it's like Buddha's story where, he sees the suffering when he's, he comes out of the cat. Do you know the story of Siddhartha? But yeah. Anyway,
yes.
It's
yes.
like he was starting as a prince,
yes.
and they preserved him, right? They kept him the king kept him preserved, and then he saw suffering, and he's like, wait a second,
yeah, time out.
Hold on, what were you hiding? That's basically my story. I love rereading Siddhartha because I'm like, oh yeah, yep, that was me. I was little Prince Siddhartha, and it's like, okay, no, this world is suffering, and so basically, I think 4 years ago, I had to go out on my own because I had to suffer. You know what I mean? Not that I didn't before. I definitely did, but I had to crack open, and I had to, do my own journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so that brings me to my question: is that so? I really didn't have a relationship with money because I was, my dad's a doctor, my ex-husband, has always done very well. Didn't have a relationship with money, but I had a relationship with spirituality. When I got out on my own and I said, well, I want to follow this path, I want to follow my passion. Well, there's a new element into following your passion is money. And you seem to be somebody, and it's cool that you're sitting here, we get to talk about this. I really struggled with that because, you think of the poor man, the beggars in India who would, with their bowls of rice, and, the whole thing is a vow of having no money. But, that just, that can work, but that's not, I don't want that, I actually want to have cool shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how, and I know a lot of people struggle with that. How can we be spiritual but also be a hustler? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Being the starving artist, who does that serve?
Right. I mean,
help?
there's a kind of a noble thing about it. You know, it's like, oh, the starving artist is a thing, but like you said, what does it serve? So tell me your thoughts on this.
You know, I didn't start out. I mean, I started doing the photography. It was because of that, to make money.
Right.
Because it was that being in Taos and realizing that the average hourly wage was about $7 an hour in 1993. It's like, oh my gosh,
yeah,
I got to do something.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know what I was, 4 years into my photography, and I said, well, then maybe there's a way. And that's when I started thinking of stuff that, you know, people say, hey, you should do your pictures on cards. I think it was my girlfriend at the time, because we saw these note cards around town. And so I started doing a bunch of those and had 10 different places where I was trying to sell them, and just a way to live.
Yeah.
And it's still that way, you know. I don't know if I could fit in a certain corporate environment and some other type of business. I mean, I found something that I truly love doing. Something I truly love doing, and so why not?
Right.
In Taos, that was the best way. You know, again, I had a number of part-time jobs, but in Taos, that was the best way that I could survive, was trying to do photography stuff. So I was kind of learn as I go. And Taos was very loving and forgiving when you're learning, you know, to do work, and wanting to support somebody who's working on their own, and so, and then became necessary, as I said, to have a space to meet clients and to show work, and it became bigger and bigger, and the work led me to all of those things. But I've been at it for gallery space for 25 years, and I'm like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
And I've always, for a long time, I've known that the work will lead me to where I need to be, and then hopefully this next phase would be more about just kind of doing projects, funded projects, and or books, and like you, meeting interesting people and getting their stories, and telling stories. You know, this African American history, civil rights history in St. Augustine, which I knew nothing about when I moved here, kind of.
You just fell into it.
I fell into it. The grace again, but it's given me purpose. You know, I can be purpose focused and mission driven. So that's sustaining me on many levels.
Tell me real quick. I hate to interrupt you, but how did you end up here in St. Augustine?
Well, my folks are in Palm Coast.
Okay.
My dad still is. My mom passed. So after seeing them 6 years ago, I thought, I better think about getting close. Yeah. And not just coming for emergencies.
Yeah.
And being here, spending time, hanging out, being of service, and also seeing the ocean. I never lived close to the ocean. And so, and St. Augustine seemed like the most likely place. Yeah. Palm Coast, no. Right? Might be a cultural void.
I literally just said, I have always said I will never live in Palm Coast, and that's where I'm going. It's okay. I got a place on the
You
river.
had to have a mission, and purpose. And you need a little HQ, little headquarters.
Yeah, exactly.
So now this project, or I always have a couple going on, is feeding me, and it has got me motivated and excited, and it's leading to something. A lot of the work has been funded already. Again, I didn't start the work because of a money-making idea, because I wanted to learn these stories, and I wanted to share these stories in a way that people can access them. You know, just using shoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a bit of narrative. So I'm not necessarily money driven, but there's expenses.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that I've done that dance, that hustle for 25 years, and it's time to shift that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just doing work and meeting people that may help facilitate the next step.
The next step.
Where I can step away from brick and mortar and have some streams of income coming. I'll always sell work, I think.
Right.
But, you get off it's a gentle hustle, but nonetheless still a hustle.
Yeah.
Kind of get off that.
Yeah.
And trust that, a way will be made.
Yeah.
I don't have a rich 99-year-old uncle or anything,
right.
Or the patron of my dreams that is trying to spend all she can before she passes and not leave anything to her mucked up offspring. There's none of that going on at the moment, but
okay, so let's talk about your current projects, like specifically, because when I do want to just honor meeting you, which is just the most magical thing. Like, you're talking about your space. I walk in there and I get in these modes. I'm in my different modes, and I was in my fairy mode, and I was just happy. I was just in a great mood, and I never know where I'm going to land. You know what I mean? I'm like, and I walk in there and I meet you and I'm like, wow, this guy's really cool. And then I look over and I'm like, is that a wall of magnolias? Like, you had just the whole, and I'm like.
At that time, yes.
And I'm like, what the hell? How am I? I mean, because, as people know who are listening, that's my chosen last name. And, I always joke that your photos are like magnolia porn for me, because I just, magnolias are my,
I get it.
They're just like, when they're in season, you see across the river here, there's a couple trees, and it's just like, whoa, and they're so huge here. They're amazing. Right. So, okay, but that wasn't the only thing that you had in the gallery. You also have, at the time, the whole wall, and I don't know what you have now, this other project you're talking about with the shoes, and I don't want to do disservice, so tell me about this project.
Well, it came about, it's called Where We Stand, and it came about because I think it's been 4 years of discovering. I was renting a house with my partner and son, and at the shores, and then that changed, and I moved down to Lincolnville. I got an apartment. And I started riding around in the evening and noticing the Freedom Trail markers from the Civil Rights Museum. Also, a few blocks from the Lincolnville Museum and Cultural Center and the Civil Rights Museum. Yeah. And unknowingly landed right in the middle of very historic, sacred land, streets where right down the street Dr. King spoke and preached and marched along with other local, and I started discovering several local civil rights activists, truly brave and courageous heroes who decided to speak up and march against segregation and racism and brutality, and so that was happening. I just started discovering that, and also professional football player Colin Kaepernick had started doing a silent, peaceful protest by kneeling before a football game, and all of the uproar that came from that. So I'm witnessing that. Of course, a lot of us were in support of that and understanding what it was about, and there was this major uproar. People thought he was disrespecting the country and the flag, and all of this. And I said, wait a minute. And discovering the history in St. Augustine and all of the horrific events that happened here and all of the brave acts, the courageous acts of protest, most of which were met with violent opposition. So wait a minute, this is this is why we stand. This is where we stand. This is why we kneel. This is why we pray. This is why we march. This is why we protest. This is why we sing. This is why we dance. This is us.
Yeah.
And so one story has led to another because they're all interconnected.
Yeah.
One event or one person is connected to another. So I call myself the history concierge, you know, because I'm discovering this black, beautiful black history in this area, the region, and I knew nothing about it, so I wanted to share these stories as I come across them.
Yeah.
And I thought the first image started with photographing some slave shackles and this man's bare feet standing on bricks at what was a slave market in the plaza of St. Augustine. Yeah. That was the very first image. Yeah. And which I find out about a story, and so I take shoes, shoes that kind of happened in the middle of the night, like a lot of my great ideas. 3 o'clock, 3 a.m. Exactly. 3 a.m. I'm on fire, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I thought, well, the shoes. I mean, a lot of people can understand, walking, or familiar with the term walking in someone else's shoes. You want to know what their life is like, or how can you judge them unless you have walked in their shoes. Yeah. So I started using the shoes for that purpose. Yeah. Both you could visualize a person in those shoes, and also you could easily be an observer in that situation. You could see yourself in those shoes, and you could see yourself as an observer. Yeah. Easy access. Yeah. And the imagery just opens the door to the story and the brief narrative. My goal is not to be the storyteller, the one, but to at least start a conversation or interest, and people can do their own research. They can, they may be led to go to one of these museums, or they may be led to go online, or just to understand what had happened here and how what happened back then affects of what's going on today. Yeah. And my first true, and I start this project not knowing where it's going to lead. I may do a dozen or so, 20, 24, but it's just one story has led to another. And I did my first exhibition at Arts on Douglas Gallery in New Smyrna. And I had 24 images. And I put those up, and that's not necessarily known as a hotbed for social awareness. Exactly. I don't think. Yeah. But I always get these signposts that I'm on the right trail. Yeah. And 2 or 3 guys, there were a couple women also, but 2 or 3 guys came up to me, white dudes, middle age, and they had tears in their eyes after seeing the images and reading the narratives. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Because I go through, well, why am I doing this? Right. Where is this leading? Who's going to buy this?
I love this. More stuff for your gumbo, right?
Yeah. I'm getting my ingredients. And they said, God, I had no idea. Yeah. And I mean, when the men get emo, it's working, right? And so that led me to continue going, and both the St. Johns County Cultural Council has funded 20 of those images to be worked up and printed, and the Community Foundation of Northeast Florida has done the same. And the Cultural Council, Christina Parris-Stone, the director, I think is like an angel. She's trying to do big things in St. Augustine in regards to cultural awareness and the arts. So she's helped make this work known by helping to promote the work, by sponsoring the exhibition at the Rotunda, where I had 43 images up, and the county commissioners complex, the offices, the rotunda, which again is probably not a hotbed of cultural diversity and awareness.
Right.
So that was major for the exhibition to go up there and for many different people to see it. And PBS came out and filmed a segment of the exhibition and interview. They were doing this segment in town. Samantha Brown's Places to Love show.
Oh, of course. Did you get to meet Samantha Brown?
Oh yeah, she was the interviewer.
No way.
So we hung
I
out.
love her.
She's a sweetheart.
I love her.
She is such a sweetheart.
She was such an inspiration. I can't believe you met Samantha Brown.
I'm such a fan. I didn't know much about her beforehand, but I started watching a few shows.
She's that little kind of pixie.
She is so awesome.
Oh my God.
And real.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure
and
she's
she
still
made
doing it too.
Easy
That's
to talk to.
Yeah.
Between her being who she is and CBD oil, I was pretty chill doing the interview, So the work is taking on this momentum, and now I'm up to probably 60 images, and there's more. I just did one this week up in Jax about MLK. Again, I don't know where that's headed, but obviously I'm doing the right thing and the work has sold. I've sold a number of pieces.
So when you starting a series, are you thinking about the money? And I hate to go to this because there's a lot of different trajectories we could be talking about. But are you thinking about like, ooh, this one's going to make me money, or ooh, this one's not?
Not with. I typically do.
Yeah.
But I don't do that in the. I will do that maybe after it's created and I see something.
Yeah.
But with this series, I didn't.
Yeah.
Like the Healing Hand series, I thought both. I thought because I started seeing how popular it was. That's why I did the book. So you're doing. I think what I do, and I hate getting off this subject, but it's. For me, this is important. It's like you're tapping into a vein that's for you, but it's also you're looking for other stuff. But this one that you're talking about, I do want to say that when I moved to St. Augustine, I think the Black history is. I feel like it's not hidden, like intentionally hidden, but you come to St. Augustine and you think pirates, you think. The Spanish and the English and all of that history, right? And that's kind of what I think kind of is the neon lights of St. Augustine history. The Black history is fucking like it's intense, that's why when I stepped into your gallery, I was like, ooh, this guy sees it. Like you were saying, I had the same experience where it's like, or like when I moved to Butler Beach and you see these little history tidbits there and you're like, what the hell? Like there's some, it's deep and rich. Yeah, it is that. And some of the most important history in the country, because a lot of what happened here in St. Augustine became seen. Because of the atrocities, the violence against people protesting or just peaceful marching, or trying to integrate the hotel, trying to integrate a restaurant, trying to integrate a pool, trying to integrate the beach, marching around the plaza, because a lot of that was filmed and photographed and broadcast on right during the time of the Civil Rights Act was in Congress, and it was like what do they call it? It was stalled, filibuster. It wasn't going through. Because a lot of these events became national and world events. Because of the coverage, it put a lot of people were across the country going, "What? This is happening?" And people worldwide were seeing what was happening, and then. And it pressured Congress and Lyndon Baines Johnson to kind of move forward and to pass the Civil Rights Act. And even after that act was passed, of course, still strong opposition. Initially, some of the businesses were forced to integrate, and then they were pressured by white supremacists and the Klan They were threatened. Their places were going to be burned out or bombed or harm come to them. So they reverted back to keeping segregated businesses.
Yeah.
And so it was a struggle, the civil rights struggle. But those acts affected a lot of what happened in passing certain rights, like the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act. So huge history in St. Augustine, and the trolley is not going to be talking about Dr. King walked down the street and Andrew Young. And Andrew Young almost got beat to death on this corner, and
Do they talk about that?
I think they do ride through Lincolnville, and they just skims the surface. And there's change coming where there's going to be specific civil rights or African American history tours. So
and I've heard of that. But it's almost like why is it even a separate thing? Like why do you have to go on that tour?
It has to be because they're not going to do it justice.
Yeah. So, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And there's nothing that serves them.
Right.
That's another story. But so my deal was just to start telling the stories, and initially it started to be for me, and when a couple of local people says, "Man, thank you. You have to. These stories have to be told and shared, and not just about the icons of civil rights activists, but these local people who braved life and limb and threats of violence and still persevered."
Yeah, and I think you do it, and this isn't the right word, but it's like almost like you're giving it through art as opposed to a history lesson. So let's say, and I just know myself, if I'm with the family or family reunion and you get on the little trolley and you hear this history tour, right? Like, okay, and this, on such and such date, Martin Luther King, blah, blah, blah. There's no feeling in it. It's completely detached, but you walk into your gallery, you look at those images, and it's art. So it's designed, everything you've talked about before is like, it's designed to pull something from you. And it may not at first be, something about race. It comes at you personally first.
Right.
And so the politics, it's not about politics.
Right.
And that at least that's my sense.
Yes.
It's not about politics, it's about people.
Yes.
And to me, that's where true harmony happens, is because it's about the people. It's about the heart connection. It's not about the head and on this date Martin Luther King did this. That's not important.
Right. It is the personal, maybe the personal stories. I mean, some of them are national events, but I think they're easily accessible, and people can access them and understand them. The stories and
Absolutely.
the events, and so that's very meaningful to me. And it creates dialogue. Too.
Yeah, exactly.
Typically, I don't come across heavy-handed or with the shame and blame and
I would hope not.
It's just kind of these are the facts. So this is what happened.
Hold on 1 second. I just remembered that. Let me pull that off. Where'd it go? Is it right here? Where did I put my little mic? There it is. Too many wires. Okay, so tell me a little bit about. Okay, so you grew up in DC, right? And then you moved to Taos, and you live here. St. Augustine is not, I think of St. Augustine as primarily a white community. And even, there's not even really a lot of Jews either, So tell me about the climate here now and what your experience is.
Well, I'm glad I'm doing this work. Because, and as I said before, I typically have 3 other things going on. You know, I'm still obsessed with the flowers, and I do some scenic work and architectural details. But the meaty part of the work has been this particular series. And you know, when I began to really show it, I was curious about how it would be received. It didn't matter. I know there are people be for it, and there would be people against it. I thought there might be some radical opposition to it. I haven't read anything personally. I know there probably has been. I watch what I read on social media, you know. But I'm just going to do the work. And it became apparent, really apparent, a couple of years ago in doing the work when the protest, 1 was the election, 2 the protest of the Confederate monument being taken down, and all who came to town. And to see white supremacist signs and flags and banners and speeches done at the plaza like they were done in '64 when the same thing was, you know, the white supremacists were gathered the Klan to do speeches and marches, and if it was in black and white, it would look the same. But I knew when I got here, I'm coming from the Southwest to here, I go, oh, I'm in the South. For the first time, like as an adult, I'm living in the South. Wow. In 2000, you know, I got here in 2017. But in 2020, I go, wow, this is 2020, and this is the reality. So I know where I am, and there's beautiful people here. There are beautiful things happening. It's more diverse than where I came from. So I appreciate that. And I know I'm here for a reason. I mean, my parents were a big reason, but this now is another great reason for me to be here. It's just to learn and to do these stories. I don't see it as like my forever place. Not at all. I'm here to do this, however long that takes. And I don't know what's next. Like there was no plan to move to Taos, no dream. Just happened. I went for a visit, and shortly thereafter, I'm there for what I thought was for one reason, ended up being greater than that. Same thing coming here. There was no great plan to move to St. Augustine. I came to visit my folks, and I hung out with a friend in St. Augustine for 3 hours, a 3-hour tour. And got back to Taos, and I go, wow, that was interesting. And then months later, you know, I'm living here. And it's because like after Taos, it's like, where could I possibly go?
Well, exactly.
And then St. Augustine. But it is beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
And it's you know, having access to the beaches. Like I can stop at 5 different beaches from home to work.
How'd your parents end up here?
They knew, I think someone from their church had relocated to Palm Coast. So they came a couple times to visit. And they were tired of the cold, and they're very active in the church, for this one church for 50 years. And they needed a break from that. And so they moved down here to be warmer and different community and easier way of life.
Interesting. So you have mixed feelings about St. Augustine? Is that what I'm getting?
It's not, I don't know if you call it mixed. There's more than one feeling. You know, there's no.
Would you say there's a racist vibe here?
Oh, definitely.
Okay. And it's different than anywhere else you've been?
I haven't lived in the South before, so
Okay.
I can't
Okay.
say.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I would imagine it's the same in other places. But
Yeah.
historically, it has been known as.
But do you still feel it?
It's not. I was having this conversation with this young African American artist yesterday. It's not covert and it's not overt,
Yeah.
but it's there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's sometimes it's subtle.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're in an environment where anti-Semitic people were,
Yeah, I would say no. I would say I don't pick it up.
you don't, yeah.
Yeah, it's very different. It's very different. People just get it's a very different thing. But and so what about DC? I mean, that's just such a culturally integrated place that I mean, would you still feel it?
Feel the
That I mean, it is
it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you see on the news what happens in different cities. It doesn't matter the region.
Yeah.
This may have, South may have more of a known history.
Yeah.
And St. Augustine, St. Johns County has its own history. But as you know, people make the best of it. And,
Yeah.
a lot of people live here in harmony, and there are people that don't mix.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, you can live lifelong and not have an incident here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's some people that have had a number of them. I personally haven't had any serious stuff. I thought I might.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like during those protests downtown when I was photographing.
Yeah. What did you end up doing with those pictures?
I'm just holding them.
Yeah.
That's the project later.
Yeah. Yeah. How were those protests? Were they were peaceful, right?
Peaceful in a sense, no one got hurt.
Yeah. There was a lot of anger. Could you feel it?
I spoke to the police chief, retired now, and he said, God, I had no idea that racism was that alive. And he said, yeah, thank God nobody got hurt.
Yeah.
Because you see in other cities that people have and did.
Yeah. And you said people came in. Do you think people were coming into the city to protest?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they put out the call, just like what happens in other cities, just what like happened January 6th in D.C.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
so what do you think? I mean, how do you think it's getting? I mean, it's obviously getting better. It's not, we don't have segregation anymore. But what do you see is the remedy long term for this, or do you think it's just part of? It's just part of.
I don't know.
There is.
I don't know that. I don't know there is a remedy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe generations.
Yeah.
Maybe it improves with each generation.
I hope. Yeah.
If you see what's happened and you see how things are passed down too,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Hate is taught.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're hopeful that with each generation,
mm-hmm.
there's less tolerance. And the younger generation, they aren't going for it.
Yeah.
There's some that are, like I said, bred that way to hate. But
yeah.
for the most part, it was really inspiring to see young people at some of these protests from the college students. They were like, hell no.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And then you see that nationwide. And that was what was happening too in the 60s.
Yeah.
It was the young people that were doing a lot of the protesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
One, because there was less of a chance of them getting killed, but two, the young people weren't going to stand for it.
Right, right. And you do see that. You see the younger generations, they just don't put up with it. They have this beautiful, it's not naivety, it's just they're young and they're you see with little kids they don't see any of this stuff. It's not even an issue really to them. But then as they become, as you go more into adulthood, it's like the 20-year-olds. They're just like, it's the same thing with, LGBTQ rights and everything. It's like the kids are like, my kids, you know, they just like, what the hell? No,
Right.
we don't put up with this shit.
No, it's nonsense.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I, you know, I really, I see change. You know, I think I told you when I first met you, my dad was part of the whole civil rights thing. He was a part of, I think, a group of medical students who in Philadelphia, and they took a bus down to, I think Alabama or Mississippi. I can never remember, but he went down there and he ended up getting clobbered by one of the cops. You know, he was camping out and he got clobbered and beat up, and I think in the end it was a good thing. I mean, he was okay. But it made, you know, news up in Philadelphia and everything. And, you know, I think, yeah, I mean, you know, I think if he listens to this, he'll be like, hell yeah, you're sitting with this cool black guy and you're hanging out talking about art. You know, I mean, we're in a good place. Things are better, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't know.
And too, you know, you have to be with like-minded, like-spirited people.
Well, and you know, and I think that's yeah.
To make it okay and things worthwhile, and yeah.
Well, interesting.
Life is.
It is so interesting, and I do want to mention to you that you, when you sent me that messenger text with that photo, you sent me the photo of all of those abandoned docks there, you know, the black and white one. You have to tell me, like, why did you decide that you needed to send me that picture?
It was because of your previous post. Mm-hmm. You'd have to look and read it. I mean, there was
exactly a picture. There was a pier. I took a picture of, you know, like a dock or whatever. So
but
maybe
I thought your post was pretty profound, and that picture.
Yeah, it did. It fit.
Went with that, and then come to find out
I'm going to be living like literally. I will be walking. I mean, the you know, talking about life being interesting, like quite literally. That dock has been on my mind, because when I made that choice to move there, obviously I'm living here right now, and it's, you know, I've got this gorgeous space for myself, you know, you can't beat that. But I had to find something where I could still do my morning meditations. So I went there, I looked at the condo, and then that night after I looked at the condo, I walked the trail there. And it's literally right there is that dock, and I took off my shoes and I walked out on the dock, and I don't want people to know because I'll probably get in trouble for trespassing, but I'm like, that's going to be my spot, like, yes. And it was me saying, it's okay to go. It's okay to leave this. And, you know, this isn't permanent anyway, but it's like, you know, the universe is providing for you. So I have literally been meditating on that spot, telling myself when I go through my little gumbo doubt, when I'm going through that, I'm like, oh no, there is this place where you can go and you can do your little yoga, you can do all your stuff. And then you send me that fucking picture. And I'm like, I'm looking at it first, I'm like, oh, that's a lovely picture. And I'm like, what the hell?
Wow.
So, yes.
And when you told me that that's where you're going to be, I was like, oh, God, okay. Inkling, intuition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so
yeah, and in fact, oh, gosh. Connie took me over there for the first time.
Oh, really?
We had lunch at the Indian place and then walked part of the trail.
Oh,
I don't know if we had walked that far, but, you know, I'm less than 10 minutes away. Uh-huh. So I'd been a couple of times. That was New Year's Day.
Uh-huh. Oh, cool.
I try to do something on New Year's Day.
Yeah, yeah.
Just kind of set the intention for the day.
Yeah.
And that morning, and
so beautiful.
And I crossed the line, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Screw it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I got out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is nice.
Yeah.
And then I try to create one image. If there's a New Year's Day or a particular holiday or birthday or some significant day, first day of the year, last day of the year, whatever. I try to get one image too. And so I got that. And I walked in the other direction under the bridge and sat there on the rocks. And then I saw these two dolphins just playing. And they came and they just like played right in front of me for like 5 minutes. It's okay, I'll play this year.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't it crazy? I had one woman tell me recently, a friend of mine who's like a psychic medium, and she's like, Becky, I'm getting that you're a shaman. And I'm like, I don't think I want to go there. Like, okay, that's fine if your intuition's telling that, but I'm like, no, I'm not. But I get the shaman thing when you have these animal things that happen. Like today, what I posted, like that was, I literally have been here for 5 months. I've never gotten in that kayak, and because I was kind of scared. I was a little scared because I'd never been out by myself on the river. It's not that far, but I was scared. But this morning I woke up, I don't know why it was today, but I said I'm getting in that kayak. And so I go across, I sit there, and I watch those deer and the foxes every single day. I sit there for not even 2 minutes, and just I hear this rustling sound, and I sit real still. 2 little foxes, they were like not even 20 feet from me, just come right out. One even looks at me, and then, like as if on cue, 2 deer, a buck and a doe come out. They come out too. They kind of look over at me, and they just kind of hang out. I'm trying to get my camera, get my phone out to take a picture. I couldn't, but yeah, I mean, I don't, I'll be honest, I don't understand, and I don't really even need to. I don't understand why we have all these cosmic occurrences. Why did I meet you and you had a room full of magnolia photos? You know what I mean? I don't know, and it doesn't even matter at this point. It's just the joy of that the world is so much more than just us 2 people sitting here.
Yeah, and I think, and when you're open to it and you just raise your vibration, that it's common.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then you become more aware, and you draw that to you.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. And you just get to the point where you're like, oh, well, hello, okay, good.
Yes,
of course. That's today when the foxes, that would have been, I think 10 years ago, something like that, I would have been like, what does it mean? I would have, and I'm like, well, okay. I just had 2 little foxes just jump out right in front of me.
Oh, that's so sweet.
It's so freaking cool.
And going, it's interesting working through that fear or apprehension about getting into the kayak.
Yeah, I know. Well, and I think that the post that you responded to, what I'm learning is my best poetry, my best writing, and I don't consider, like, I have people tell me, oh, you got to put this in books, because I literally just will write it in the morning and just put it, but it's nothing more than just. Usually what it is me going from a dark place to a light place. And for me, writing, it's like knitting. It's like something, when I write those words, I start from a place of, getting up in the morning, you're not quite, you're still in dream world, and things feel a little off. And then like I work the words, and all of a sudden I kind of come into this, that you called it, I don't know what you called it, but when you go like a vessel, it's like you come into that space. And for me, it's therapy. That's why I don't, that stuff, I save it because you never know, it could be a book. But I just write it, it's just therapy for me. And for some reason, posting it makes it, I don't know, I just like to share it. Otherwise, I'm just writing for myself.
Yeah, I think it's great that you do.
Yeah.
Because it affected me in a way. I was like, wow. And I'll actually have to go back and see exactly what you wrote, but I loved it. And
good.
That's why I wanted to respond with the image.
Yeah.
That's the perfect image too, because you were that. If you go back and look at the image, you were that little
light
sunburst.
There. Yeah.
That's what you were that morning.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah. Oh, it's so exciting. It's just like, and I feel like I turned 50, like a couple months ago.
50?
Yeah.
Such a babe. Young person.
How old are you?
65.
Really? Wow. I thought you were much younger than that.
I like it when older people call me young person.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I had this Uncle Johnny, where I do something, or he'll post, or he doesn't say a whole lot on Facebook, or it was his birthday.
Yeah.
Looking good, young person.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what he is, 88?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
A fit 88.
Yeah.
But, I mean, age.
I know. I notice I do that too. I'll refer to some kid at the bank, and like my kids will be like, "He's 40, Mom." Like, oh, he's only 10 years younger than me. Like,
right.
Kid. Just look at that kid. What's he doing?
Right.
What I do love is your sincerity and your honesty about the dark stuff. Is that and you do see that with artist types more so, where it's using it, like you said, making it into your food. I mean, gumbo's freaking nourishing. It's full of richness, and that's a really cool little metaphor.
Yeah, that's just I have felt that way for a while, but just recently that has come to me, and I'm here in St. Augustine, and you feel these different forces. And it's not necessarily now an art-centered town, whereas it's a tourist town. And I came from an art-centered town, even though that was a tourist town, but art is prominent. So taking all of that, all of those stories.
Yeah. And you're here for a reason. I mean, just that work that you're doing right there is I mean, I personally, I think that St. Augustine needs that. I think they really need it, and
From what I'm told.
Yeah.
And I too, that I'm here for the magnolias. I'm like, I feel like a drunk mystic poet during early summer. Or a bee, brother bee. I did years ago. We tried to have beehives in Taos until a bear came along and destroyed them all. But I had this little, and then I published a couple of little things, and I called it Brother Bee Books. I had this caricature that with a brother, my head with dreads on the beast body. But I feel like that during magnolia season. I know my favorite trees, like between where I was living, North City and downtown, and then between St. Augustine and Palm Coast. Now, like in Palm Coast, so I had these favorite trees that I could, depending on the time of the season, I could always get a blossom or two and photograph or check on things. And
no, I definitely have a relationship with the certain trees. And well, the whole reason I got my name was, well, first off, because all these, when I was more into the kind of bhakti Hindu thing, I was like, I want a name, like all the Hindus, all the nouveau Hindu, they get like, oh, I want to be, Deva Das or whatever it is. They get these names, and it's so cool. I'm like, I want a name, but I'm in the middle of Florida. Nobody's going to give me a name, and you can't just give yourself a name. And I would try, and I'm like, no, you have to have some holy person. I didn't know any holy people. I would just watch these little videos on YouTube. So I'm like, so I remembered, oh, well, somebody has to give you a name. So I'm like, I kind of gave up on the Hindu name. I'm like, yeah, whatever, but I moved onto Magnolia Street, right? And right down the street here, and I went to, because everything's just funny to me. I went to some garage sale, and they had this couch, and I'm like, oh, I need to get this couch. So I told them to hold it for me. And she said, okay, well, what's your name? I said, Becky, I live over on Magnolia. So she just wrote on the piece of paper, Becky Magnolia. I wish I had saved that paper. So the couch ended up being crap, but I got my name. I said, that's me. I'm Becky Magnolia.
Wow. And it's so perfect too, right?
and the thing is because I'm a hustler too. And so I know as a writer that, I had been divorced for 6 months or whatever. I'm like, and my last name was Porchot, which is his name, which is hard to spell. It's hard to pronounce, hard to remember. And so I'm like, oh no, I'm going to have a snappy name and Magnolia, and it fits with me.
It's perfect. Yeah, I love it.
So now me and the Magnolias hang out in the springtime, and I got to watch them their whole season here. There's two big trees there. I was so excited when I got out there today because I was scared, going across, which is embarrassing because I think the locals here would laugh at me. But it was a big deal for this little Jewish girl to navigate the river by herself.
Yeah, I would feel the same.
I'm getting in the kayak. I mean, I had, canoed with other people, but not, just by myself on this river. So I felt like
and
I
you
was
got the current, am I going to be swept away?
Exactly. I don't know. And so and it was like, it literally took me like 3 minutes to get across. It was such not a big deal. But I get to the other side, like I'm Pocahontas or something. I get up there and I look up and the big magnolia that I've been looking at for 4 or 5 months now, she's just right there. And I'm like, oh, hi.
Wow.
So,
yes, ancient.
So what happens with the magnolia once it blooms and then it gets
those seed pods?
Yeah, those are they're as cool as the flowers are.
Yeah, I have photographed them because those red seeds in those pods. I photographed the pods, and then one time I gathered a bunch of pods over at Fort Mose and pulled all of the seeds out, and I photographed this dude holding the seeds. A couple people holding the red seeds. Mm-hmm. Yeah, magical. I mean, the magnolia is like, some species are like 65 million years old. Mm-hmm. Even before bees.
Yeah, that's what someone was telling me.
Beetles used to pollinate them.
Yeah.
And so there's, they're known for helping to ease stress, anxiety, sleeplessness.
Oh, really?
The magnolia oil and bark. You can make magnolia bark tea. You can buy that.
Ooh.
And so they're ancient,
Yeah.
So ancient wisdom. All flowers are.
Yeah.
But
But
it's like the oldest flower known.
And they don't have the same energy as other flowers. When you hold a magnolia, it's got something, and you look at the leaves, even the leaves themselves with their, the two colors like that, where they're almost more like pines, or they're not a normal tree. They're not a normal flower. There's something different.
And you're right about their energy. This one thing about photographing them, because you're always in close proximity and in different stages. I've got them in most stages, from the tight in the bud to almost dead.
Yeah.
And you having them in a room, it changes the energy of the room. I mean, there's that sweet fragrance, but there's this energetic shift when they're in the room. That's when I pick them. If you pick them and they're like this, within a couple hours they're like this. Yeah. And I tell people, put it in your bedroom. Yeah. Because in the morning, they're open up. Right. Like 8 o'clock in the morning, they're open up.
Exactly. You come you get up in the morning. I would leave one here, and then I come out in the morning. I was like, because I'd get so sad because they'd close up.
Yeah.
But then even if they sit there as time goes on, you'll see I left on my little table here, when they drop the pollen right here on this little table where the seashells are, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then they drop that, and then the pollen, and it's just, it's almost like having an alien in your house, they're just like, and I don't know anything about botany or anything, so I don't really know what's happening, but I'm like, this is not a normal flower.
Yeah. I just love them. And now I've had to go to, after all of the blossoms are gone, and then miraculously found one blossom in Palm Coast, like when my brother was here. Yeah. So I photographed him holding it and my dad, because I've yet to.
I think I saw that picture.
But the leaves.
And the leaves are so cool.
I grabbed I don't know how many branches, 30 branches, and I just photographed the leaves because I couldn't leave the house. Yeah. Because my dad and my sister was gone, so I had to do. Okay, I need an outlet. Yeah. And they're magical.
Oh yeah, and you have all those cool pictures with the textures, and they're doing cool things. Oh my God, those are so cool. And because I walk out in the woods here nearby, barefoot every day, and and under the trees, there's just these beds of the magnolia leaves, and it's just like, and it's so cool because they're starting to decay.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's just like,
yeah.
you know, yeah.
And they take these really amazing shapes. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. There's a lot. Yeah. Well, cool.
Yes.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who appreciates
Oh, no.
magnolias.
My son calls me the magnolia thief. But then he would climb. He's climbed up in a tree a couple times. I'll get one for you, Papa. Okay. Be careful, son. He'll climb up in a tree and get a flower from me.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
What's your son's name?
Sonny.
Oh, that's beautiful.
He's a beautiful soul.
That's beautiful. So is he named after, is he truly just Sunny? Is he Sunshine?
He is.
Yeah.
He really is. And you know the love. I mean, the kids teach you about love. You think you know something.
Yeah.
Until they come along and you realize what love is and what it requires and what it does. And it's like, it's really humbling.
Yeah.
And two, caring for an aging parent. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. It's a very interesting thing. And we could do a whole other podcast about that, you know, about families and love and all that stuff. Yeah.
I thought this morning, I may write a little something, because my father and I have the most beautiful conversations in the morning. Mm-hmm. I was shaving him this morning. I thought I may write a little story or a little book about shaving my father. Oh. Because I mean, it's just it can be frustrating and hard, but those moments like this morning, it was just we're both in a good place. We both had good sleep.
Yeah.
And I said, Dad, you want me to shave you today? He says, yeah. And he can, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, shaving him is just, it's one of the most intimate things that we've done.
Yeah.
You know, we have to do everything for him, you know.
Yeah. How old is he?
91. Mm-hmm. But shaving him, and we laugh and talk, and I get to keep my job because I did a good job, you know.
Did you have a good relationship with your parents growing up?
Oh yeah. And we weren't that. I mean, we were close, but we weren't, you know, maybe the typical father son. Or him of his generation, you know, it wasn't like a lovey-dovey, you know, affectionate kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But he was always there for us, always did for us, provided for us. Yeah. You know, your father worked. Yeah. Right? Yeah. That's what fathers did. Yeah. And so to have these years and, you know, just... And especially the last two, just helping him, being there exactly for him the way he was for us. Yeah. In our youth, you know. Yeah. It's priceless.
It's cool. And yeah, I would say, you know, my parents are getting, you know, up in age, and they're both in Wisconsin and far away, and
They're getting Wisconsin?
Yeah, Madison is where I'm from, and yeah, it's really hard. It's too distant. I don't like to travel. I'm not a get on a plane kind of person. And you know, I think that you have something really, really precious. You know, we all kind of went our separate ways, and they're there, and you know, my dad's in a nursing home, and it's hard. It's hard emotionally because there's distance in so many ways.
Yeah. Getting older, Becky. It ain't all it's cracked up to be.
That's what everybody tells me.
Right? Shit. It doesn't get easier. It just gets different.
That's exactly.
Right? I mean, you're a mom. I don't have to tell you anything.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah. No, It's a trip. Life is a trip. I feel like right now I feel young. I feel younger than I have felt in a very long time.
Yeah.
That's the thing is I don't get that whole, like, I haven't gotten it yet. You know, we'll see as time goes on. But right now I'm like,
I think that's the jumping off point. It feels like 50 was and gets better. I was freaked out about it, so I was asking all of these people that were in their 50s, well, what's it like? Oh, you're gonna love it. I don't know if there was one person that had a negative thing to say. You're gonna love it.
Yeah.
And they were right.
Yeah.
Because I rocked and rolled in my 50s.
It's so freaking liberating because it's like you're at the top, you know, they say over the hill. You're like, but it's like, no, you know, you're just coming into your power. You get to get rid of all that negative shit and you get to just, you know, be. Yeah. No.
And you're finding your stride, getting your groove right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like this is when I get to start really kicking ass.
I think so.
Yeah. And so what does 65 feel like then?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought. I was suicidal at 29, so shit, you know, I have to remind myself I'm in the bonus.
Yeah.
I'm like 35 years into the bonus.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you have something on your mind and heart, or something that you want to do, just do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That could be the same at any age, but now it's like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, 5 years from now, I'm going to no.
Right. Exactly.
Like,
so do you have plans? Like, what do you see yourself doing in the next 5 years?
I think travel is a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm trying to lay the foundation for this work. You know, I've been an artist for a long time, so it's not like I have the 401k. You know, it's just grace and God and work and providence and, you know, and hopefully the work I've created will sustain me. I tend to think it will somehow. I'm not exactly sure how, but I know, you know, kind of that it has to.
Yeah.
And partnership would be a great part of that. You know, I haven't had a partner for a while, so, you know, I hope that shifts and be able to enjoy some sweet time with someone. And and it's funny, like you get a little bit older and people say, yeah, you know, relationships are work. I want to be with someone we can work. I want to fucking have fun.
Exactly.
Right? I don't want a project. I don't want to be a project. I want to have some good fun, some good sex, eat good food, go to fun places.
Exactly.
And there's always that discovery, you know, you're discovering yourself. And,
of course, but it doesn't have to be I don't need another I've been job. Through that. No, exactly. I always say, I just want someone to play with.
Play.
Like, that's just it. It's like, no.
My sister and I laugh because she's not that way. She's, I said, okay, you do that. Okay, I want to have a good time. And I know couples. Long-time couples that live that way. Yeah. Or even I've witnessed a couple couples like my age get married recently or find someone recently. And I go, but life should be about that, shouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, to me, it's like, I mean, you meet these people who are so freaking serious, and and being single, you know, you get these people, you know, all these women like, oh, I just dated this narcissist. I'm like, why are all these women finding these horrible men? I'm like, how are you doing this? I'm like, no, I mean, like, my ex-husband and I, you know, get along great. It's like, I don't see people as being like, why does everything have to be so tight-fisted all the time?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Life in itself will hand you all of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So,
you know, you wait. Okay, you know what? There's gonna be a hurricane. Shit's gonna happen. Things are gonna happen. Don't make it. Don't manufacture it. Don't. And even when that shit comes, you go, okay, well, where's the silver lining?
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
And have that outside. You know, not in this sanctuary, right? In this
Yeah, exactly.
A sacred space between two people. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I know that does take some work, but it also takes
Yeah.
kind of keeping your hands off and keeping a light touch.
Yeah, and you know, and the thing is we're human. We go in, we get all heavy and moody, and I mean, I know I'm a drama queen, but I love it though. It's like I'm getting to the point in my life where even my dramas, I'm like, oh, look at me, I'm so depressed. I'll see myself walking around, moping around, and being all melodramatic.
I say, oh, this is a great story. Oh yeah,
exactly. Oh, look at me.
I should write this shit down and sell it.
Exactly. Oh, woe is me. And you know, and I don't stay as long into those dark places anymore because I laugh too much. I'm too amused by myself.
That's a good thing. Yeah, to be able to laugh, able to laugh at yourself, and fortunately I can do that.
Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's interesting timing.
Yeah. Good. Let's stop this little guy here. Thank you for listening to Secrets of an Everyday Mystic. To find out more about photographer Lenny Foster, go to www.lennyfoster.com. That's LennyFoster.com. And if you want to find more about me, you can go to magnoliamystic.com. Thank you again for listening. Have a wonderful day.